A lot of times in murder prosecutions, you know who did it, you know the result of what happened, and you know lots of times why they did it. The exact mechanics of how it was done sometimes is never clear.
Doan said she and Canada drove to Jellicoe, Tennessee. Pruitt followed them in his red Ford Tempo. There, both cars pulled over to a place known as Sandy Beach.
Bobby proceeds to get out of the car. And I watched him get out of the car, you know, and get in the back seat.
Did he tell you where he was going or why he was going?
No.
He gets in the back seat of Joseph's vehicle.
Joseph's car, Uncle John.
Minutes later, there was a loud noise.
I heard 2 shots. But, you know, I was playing with the stereo. I never thought nothing like this would ever was going on.
Doan claimed she never asked Canada about the shots, but she now believes they were the shots that killed Charlie Bryant.
We independently verified from a resident that along in this time frame, she heard 2 shots in that general area.
But there was a problem with Doan's testimony. She said she never saw Charlie Bryant on December 15th.
You see any other people other than Joe and Mr. Canada in the car?
No.
Even though she never actually saw Bryant, prosecutors claimed hearing the shots was incriminating enough.
Kay Doan's testimony at the preliminary hearing puts the place of killing at the car.
After hearing the gunshots, Doan recalled Canada getting back in his car with her and driving a half-mile down the road.
We pulled over to the left hand, and then Mr. Pruitt, he like just swerves his car like he's gonna go down a bank, and it stopped. I said, "What in the hell is going on?" Bobby said, "No, don't worry, Kay, no problem. It's just a little insurance job." And that's when Bobby gets the gas can out. Him and Bobby pushed the car on over.
No, I was in my car the whole time.
After they complete splashing the gas on it, what happened, Lee?
It just ignited. Shaboom. It freaked me out when I seen the car go up. I mean, I was drunk, but it woke me up a little bit.
I had no clue what Joe Pruitt had planned and was going to do and everything. Joe had all to gain. I had nothing to gain. I had no motive.
Prosecutors disagree.
Our theory of the case, which we think is substantiated by the evidence, is that part of the money to be placed in the post office box was going to go to Bobby Canada.
After the car was set on fire, Doan said that Pruitt jumped into Canada's car. She noticed that he had singed his hair and mustache.
I thought I was just an eyewitness in a arson. I never dreamed of eyewitness in a murder.
Then she said they all headed to Corbin, Kentucky, to Canada's friend Linda Raper's house. That's where Joe hid until his arrest. Doan was granted immunity for her testimony. Canada said that she turned against him because she was pressured by the police.
They arrested her and told her that I had blamed her for the murder of Charlie, and that's when she got mad and aggravated.
Is Doan lying to hide her involvement? During cross-examination, the defense pointed out that Doan had either lied on the stand or lied to police about whether she saw Bryant in the burning car.
Do you recall telling the police officers in these statements that you saw 2 heads in the car?
I recall saying it, but I was wanting to, in my mind, I was wanting to see it so bad because I was so angry with Bobby and Joseph for putting me in this situation.
Doan said she didn't lie to police. She was confused.
Buddy, let me tell you something. There's so many of them asking me questions, and my brain was so scrambled, I could not believe that I was put in the middle of something like this. This threw me into shock. After I got my head together, I know what happened.
She actually didn't say nothing or didn't know nothing. Everything she said was made up.
Bobby Canada said his version of what happened was the truth, and he took not 1 but 2 polygraph tests to prove it.
I told them no, that I didn't kill anybody, and they said, well, that's true. The test shows that you're telling the truth about that.
Prosecutors were surprised by this information.
We weren't aware there was ever any polygraph tests given, and don't know when they could have been given for that matter, because he was in custody from the day of his arrest.
Court TV contacted Canada's attorneys about the polygraph test which they commissioned, but they declined to be interviewed. Ultimately, the grand jury indicted Joe Pruitt and Bobby Canada for the murder of Charlie Bryant. Then, police made a shocking third arrest. Pruitt's wife, Marie. That's next. In August 1999, 2 months after Joe Pruitt and Bobby Canada had been indicted for the murder of Charlie Bryant, police make a surprising arrest. Pruitt's wife, Marie. She is charged with facilitation to commit first-degree murder and accessory to murder after the fact. Investigators believe that she has been involved all along in the plans to collect the $220,000 in insurance money that was going to be delivered in care of Joseph Pruitt.
The plans for picking up this cash that was supposed to have been put in a post office box in Caryville, Tennessee, was switched to being hand-delivered to a woman in Kentucky to pick the money up.
Trooper David Garrison's suspicions were first aroused by Marie's reaction to the deadly car crash.
She didn't act as distraught, or she wasn't, like you go to somebody and say your husband's dead or he was killed. She didn't have that major shock.
And there is something else that troubles investigators.
She went every Sunday to visit Joe while he was in jail. She was too sympathetic and kind to him to suit law enforcement. They thought that she should have been really indignant, and she just wasn't.
Marie says she is not involved in her husband's evil scheme.
I knew nothing. I just took care of the kids and, did what I thought I was supposed to do.
She was a very traditional wife. She left all of the decisions to Joe. She didn't know anything about their finances, she didn't know anything other than what he told her.
The defense says that the notion that Marie knows nothing about her husband's deadly plot is hard for the prosecution to accept, but they say that's the way it is.
She had not been aware of any of Joe's criminal past or criminal involvement.
I just couldn't believe that they can charge somebody that's innocent, that hasn't been involved in anything. It was a shock. They handcuffed me in front of the kids. And, they'd been through enough.
This was one of the most difficult emotional roller coasters I'd ever seen a client go through. Imagine believing that your husband was dead, then hear that he was alive.
According to Marie's defense attorney, all the evidence against her is purely circumstantial.
The reason she was charged was an effort by the state to see if she would ultimately tell them something that could be used against her husband and possibly testify against him. There is no question that Marie, like many others, was a victim of Joe Pruitt.
I don't know how you can live with somebody and not know them, but you can.
Now, Marie is starting to have her own suspicions about her husband's guilt. And she says when Joe found out that she had been arrested and posted bond, he didn't care.
He would just say things like, I'm innocent too, and so there's nothing I can do.
This case here has definitely been the strangest case that I've had an opportunity to work over 20-some years of law enforcement.
2 years had passed since Joseph Pruitt and Bobby Canada were charged with the murder of Charlie Bryant. Prosecutors claimed that Pruitt faked his own death by using Bryant's body and recruited Canada as his accomplice. Both men faced the death penalty. As prosecutors prepared for trial, they speculated about the defense.
Joe Pruitt was going to try a mental deficient defense, I'm sure.
Since his arrest, he had been very mysterious.
The only statement that I'm aware of that Joe Pruitt made was that he was like a person with amnesia. He didn't have any recollection of the events of December the 15th.
His co-defendant, Bobby Canada, was more vocal.
He set me up. I trusted Joe. He had won my favor. I respected him. I looked up to him. I never thought at any time, I didn't know he was capable of anything like that. Had no idea.
Prosecutors agreed to try the defendants separately.